this big bad bill that passed on Friday, that they have really backloaded the cuts to Medicaid. In some instances, you're not going to see those until the end of 26 after the midterm election, some in the beginning of 27 and into 28. But it's going to be pretty devastating. The Medicare cuts are going to come quicker because that is part of sequestration. If you run a deficit, there are rules that were set up in 2010, 2011 called PAYGO, where there's an automatic across-the-board cut. And Medicare looks to be losing $50 million a year. It's unclear how they're going to get around this. Theoretically, Republicans could say, all right, we're going to override the PAYGO rules. I don't think they're going to do that. What you will see sooner is that if you're on the exchanges and you're on the low-income part of the ACA exchanges, you're going to get hit with much higher rates because subsidies are going to get crushed. Let's get into some of the specifics. One of the things that people were talking about is people who are on Social Security got an interesting letter the other day.
Yeah, an email.
We heard from maybe half a dozen to a dozen of our listeners sent me this, but I also saw it from other folks. Social Security sent out an email. Social Security applauds passage of legislation providing historic tax relief for seniors. Social Security Administration celebrating the passage of the One Big Beautiful Bill. First of all, I don't know if this violates the Hatch Act. It sure feels like it.
Yeah.
But it's not even the One Big Beautiful Bill.
Yeah, they messed it up.
Chuck Schumer had the name. That was his big accomplishment.
But also, like, they're messing up the acronym because this was supposed to be, making a joke out of Build Back Better. Yeah.
A landmark piece of legislation that delivers long-awaited tax relief to millions of older Americans. The bill ensures that nearly 90% of Social Security beneficiaries will no longer pay federal income taxes on their benefits, providing meaningful and immediate relief to seniors who have spent a lifetime contributing to our nation's economy. Just scroll up for me, Brian, so I can read it a little more. Okay, that's it. Now, here's the thing. It's lying, or I should say it's misleading, because the number of people who pay, of Social Security beneficiaries who pay taxes, they're not getting it. They're not getting relief because, first of all, the relief has nothing to do whether you're on Social Security. It has to do with your age. Now, it just so happens that everybody over the age of 65 gets Social Security, or the vast majority. Older single filers are going to get a $6,000 deduction, $12,000 for couples, as long as their income falls under a certain ceiling, below $75,000 or below $150,000 for joint filers. But half of the people on Social Security receive income that is too low to be taxed anyway. So lower income people are not going to be helped. The new tax break is expected to benefit middle and upper class households. Recipients who receive less than $63,000 in over the age of 65 owe an average of 1% of their Social Security benefits and taxes. So the bottom line is that this is going to help some people, not that many, and the story of there being no taxes on Social Security is a complete lie. That's just not the case. It's a tax break for middle and upper middle class taxpayers. That's it. who are over the age of 65. If you had to retire at age 62 or age 64, you're not eligible. And so it's not quite the benefit that people say. Less than half of adults over the age of 65 who earn between 50 and 200,000 will get some benefit from the new deduction. So you'll still be paying taxes. You will get a tax break. 64% of beneficiaries did not owe taxes on their Social Security benefit. It will add about 24% of people onto that, up to 88%. So that's where they get that number. They're helping 1/4 of seniors on Social Security pay a little bit less in taxes, which is not nothing, but it's not what they talk about. Let's go to the other aspect of the bill. This is on tips and overtime. Again, there's no tax on tips up to the first $25,000. Now, most people who make tips make virtually nothing in guaranteed wages.
Yep.
The minimum wage, I think, for if you're a server or, waiter in some way, is I think like a couple of bucks.
Yeah, I gotta look this up. For tipped workers, hard to do right on the fly, but it's very low. It's very low. They make a majority of their income with tips.
Vast majority. Is there a federal minimum for?
I'm not sure. In New York, it's also incredibly low.
Looking that up right now. But the bottom line is you get $2.13 per hour. Yep. I thought it was $2.35. That is the tipped minimum wage. So only the first $25,000. And I got news for you. If you live in a city, $25,000 a year is not very much to live on. Tip workers will still face the 7.65 combined payroll taxes that fund Social Security and Medicare. So it's basically only the first $25,000 is free from income taxes. Let's play this clip. It also, incidentally, now, if you're in the 12% tax bracket, and you that first $25,000 could provide for you close to $3,000 in tax savings. And to be fair, that's a significant amount of money. $250 a month, but it's not anywhere near what they have praised. And also, to be clear, unlike the corporate tax and income tax cuts, these sunset in 4 or 5 years. Here is Mike Lawler talking about how that's just sort of the most natural thing ever.
Obviously, the party came together today to pass one of the largest tax relief bills in American history, increase domestic production of energy, secure our borders, strengthen our military, and start to rein in the size and scope of the federal government.
Pause it for a second. I just want to remind you that
we're projected to spend
ICE
$86 trillion
now,
over the next decade. This bill starts.
ICE has a budget that's like 10 times larger than the FBI. It's the largest budgeted, I guess, police force, bounty hunter squad, that we have in the country. It has a budget larger than some European nations' military. And yet, in the same breath, he talks about shrinking the size of government. We added $100 billion annually. We now spend like $1 trillion on defense. Maybe more, actually. On defense. Hundreds of billions on ICE. And he's talking about shrinking government. Go ahead.
Trillion in debt. We're projected to spend 86 trillion over the next decade. This bill starts to make significant savings across the entirety of the federal government so that we can actually reduce spending and bring down the cost of living for Americans. This is a big win for Americans across the country. You look at the tax provisions, the doubling of the standard deduction, the enhanced child tax credit, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime. You see
those will expire in 2028, correct? Those provisions specifically
sure, within the tax code, but that's normal. The tax code has always had expiration dates on many provisions. We come back and keep working towards it.
That's
but
normal.
The objective here
That's
is
normal.
to provide real and immediate.
That's normal.
Is it normal? Because weren't they framing, and again, I've been out for 2 weeks, so I'm a little rusty. Weren't they framing the expiration of the Trump tax cuts as like a major tax increase on everyday people when they were trying to justify this big, ugly ass bill?
They said it was normal to use that actually as a baseline, which is why the deficit numbers came even remotely close to what they said they were. Because they're pretending like the tax cuts weren't supposed to expire.
That's interesting.
It's, I don't know who Mike Lawler thinks he's kidding, but I hope he enjoys his last 18 months in office.
Well, yeah, no, it's why I brought up New York State, and I guess got to correct myself here because in 2024, I think there was that increase in tipped minimum wage to higher by many times over the rest of the country. But that was a part of what AOC was running on, too. It's interesting because, New York State's economy is doing better than some other states that have that very low minimum wage. Same thing that happened in Seattle. We were told that was going to bankrupt the city when they raised the minimum wage. Didn't happen.
It's up to like $10 an hour.
Right.
And $9 an hour, and in New York City can be 12 or $10 an hour, somewhere around there.
It's 11 for New York City.
There you go.
Here is a compilation of Republicans trashing this bill before voting for it. I know this is just like sort of run-of-the-mill hypocrisy and cowardice, et cetera, but and that we see this. We could run a similar compilation of people talking about what a fascist Donald Trump was and how they basically bent the knee to him. But here are the Republicans who are doing this. It includes some of the 18 or 20 who are going to be most targeted in the House for seat flipping. But let's just watch this. It comes from MSNBC.
What the Senate did is unconscionable. What they did to our bill was unconscionable. I'll vote against it here, and I'll vote against it on the floor.
You're going to hear a lot about the tax cuts, but the deficit, nobody's talking about the deficit. Nobody. I got it. The tax cuts are important. We are going to get the tax cuts done in some fashion. But we cannot saddle our children and our grandchildren with an exploding national debt.
Do I like this bill? No, because I tried to take care of Alaska's interests. But I know that in many parts of the country, there are Americans that are not going to be advantaged by this bill.
Mm-hmm. Incidentally, all three of them voted for it.
Yeah. She voted for it because she got basically bought off by Donald Trump with, like, it was the Alaska, David Dane wrote about this, right? It was I guess Alaska has the #1 amount of improper payments for things like SNAP.
Yes.
And and the bill made it funding kind of contingent upon that as a way to get Murkowski to agree to the bill.
What happened with the SNAP cuts was their improper payments as a way of doing a payoff to Alaska. Improper payments became a mechanism or justification for a waiver to SNAP cuts for 2 years. And to justify to the parliamentarian how they were giving this waiver, they couldn't just give it to Alaska. They did it to the top 10 states with improper payments. Or I should say, improper payments, which can include checks written to people who weren't there, or a lot of this stuff gets clawed back. But it's basically an error rate. And what it does is it incentivizes states to have a high error rate because it will continually keep them from getting SNAP cuts from the federal government. And so it's a complete, white elephant boondoggle, essentially.
I mean, and Murkowski, honestly, the other Republican senators should have done what she did or pretend to hold out before selling out the rest of the American people, because she got some goodies, or at least some giveaways for her vote. She was bought off. That's how Trump's whole tariff policy is too, where he wants to create this level of austerity and cuts so that individuals, whether it's or the tariff policy is about trade policy, obviously, but for people to come to him and then get corrupt carve-outs. That's the entire way that he's operating here. With Hawley, it was the same thing. And then I just saw this morning that Heat Map reported that Ralph Norman, who was in that compilation, was brought onto the bill because Trump basically promised him that he wasn't going to just phase out the Inflation Reduction Act solar and wind subsidies. He was just going to end them immediately. So that's what he got in exchange for his vote. And I'm sure the more digging that's going to happen over the next few days will uncover that all this was a mob boss thing by Trump.
Yeah, and the reason why you have someone like Murkowski who's able to do that, it's because her vote was not as contingent upon her relationship with Trump as others.
Yeah.
So she has a little more latitude to pretend like she's going to vote against it, essentially, for negotiation. Here is Tim Burkett. Give you a sense of what he got.
Wasn't he one of the guys that was so enamored by the signed hats? Did he get? Was he? Did he get? Did he get?
Watch. Here,
okay,
this is Tim Burkett.
The clip. Oh
this
my
is
God.
Him, Tim Burkett, leaving the White House after his big negotiation, where Tim Burkett essentially bragging about. Here it is.
This is embarrassing.
Hey everybody, Tim Burchett. Just leaving the White House. Everybody say, hey, Byron Donalds, next governor of Florida. It's great to be on with Jimmy B. Scott Perry, my number one man, General. I got Norman, got Burkeen over here. Got us all, baby. President was wonderful, as always. Informative, funny.
Sexy.
Told me he liked seeing me on TV, which is kind of cool. Hey, Commissioner, look at there. Commissioner wearing purple. That's the color of royalty.
All my people. Are we getting it done?
Yes, ma'am.
Good to see y'all.
I'm a happily married man. Oh, did you see that?
I'm so sorry.
She clipped me, man. She clipped me. Did y'all see that? Anyway.
I'm good.
Big day today, folks. Hopefully we get this thing worked out.
All right, I'm going to fast forward to the
very end.
Yeah, we'll see what the payoff. What did he get from Trump?
And thank y'all so much for sending me here. I'm incredibly humble.
What he signed for you?
Yeah, he signed a bunch of stuff. It's cool. Anyway, thank y'all for sending me here.
Oh, I got a bunch of souvenirs.
Thank y'all for sending me here so I could have this experience. That's all that matters.
Let me see what I got to do to get these signed souvenirs. Let's play number 11, where Tim Burkett, just a couple of days later, like some of the deep information he got in these negotiations, which allowed him to vote for this bill. Here's one of them right now.
Well, that's one thing that the CBO and any of the bean counters never really take into consideration is the incredible economic outlook for our country. I mean, can you imagine energy if we remove a lot of bureaucracy? Our nuclear facilities take 8 to 10, maybe 15 years to get online. You've got a new man at the EPA that's turning them over pretty quick, and people are talking about coal again, which I think is great. God put it in the ground, let's use it. Everybody across the world's using it, and they're passing us by. And the president wants to get out of bed with stuff that doesn't matter, like solar and wind. You know, we haven't had a major discovery in solar in over 20 years, and wind is very subjective and it's very expensive. And there's a reason, as President Trump told me, I believe it was Thursday, that there's no windmills in China, but 99% of them that are sold are made in China. So I think there's a lot of things in there that are going to happen, and it's going to be great for this country.
You're known as...
Yeah, about those windmills in China. Almost 200,000 windmills deployed in China.
What is he? There's been no significant advancements. What is the reason behind that?
Well, first off, I don't even think that's true.
Right, it's not true. But they're basically what the underlying claim he's making there is that it's not necessarily very profitable, because when you install solar panels or when you install windmills, it's not like oil where you have to get another gallon or another gallon of gas at the gas station.
The cost of solar panels has gone down dramatically over 20 years. I mean, that is the technology, and the battery technology has also changed dramatically. I mean, first of all, he's lying.
Yeah, he's
lying, and he's an idiot. Because he obviously he didn't bother Googling what, I mean, look at China's, what we have in terms of wind capacity in 2022. In 2022, their growth in wind capacity grew by double what ours did. Now, even at that time, our wind percentage of total was 10%, a little more than China's. But they're growing at a rate, I would imagine by now, they have surpassed us.
I mean, we've essentially ceded this whole technology over to them, despite, I don't know, when I was growing up, we were talking about solar and wind and the creation of that technology here in the United States.
Here's an interesting thing about what God has been doing, too.
Oh.
God's not only been putting coal in the ground, but here's the amazing thing. Wind and sun are not even buried. We don't have to even dig to get them. They exist.
That's the devil.
Right, but that's what I was about to say. It's the devil's technology. You don't know where the wind's going to blow.
I mean, I guess that's true.
Well, with the cuts to the National Weather Service. I guess
that's true. I mean, God also put arsenic in peach pits. So maybe he should be eating more arsenic.
Well, that was for Eve.
Oh, right, exactly. I mean, of course it's stupid. And to be clear, the reason why we haven't built nuclear power in this country has been a function of the desire for people to invest in it. We could have a program where we actually build publicly funded nuclear power plants, but when he says nuclear power, what he's really saying is we're giving subsidies to oil.
Yep.
That's what he's talking about. All right. We're going to take a break, head into the fun half. We will have more as people start to dig more out of this bill in the coming days, but it's a real disaster. Over the next couple of days, we'll talk about the part, from my perspective, which is the most problematic, and that is the expansion of ICE.
Yeah.
The Medicaid stuff, theoretically, can be rolled back. The SNAP things, theoretically, can be rolled back. The pullback on the subsidies in the Affordable Care Act can be rolled back. Frankly, there's a solution for all of that. The $500 million cuts to Medicare, and it's called single-payer health care. I think it's, more and more likely in the event that, we have future elections and they're not canceled because of a state of emergency or whatever it is. In the event that Democrats take hold of power again, it's quite clear that if we head on this trajectory, there's going to be an increasing call for massive change in the way that the country does business. But the ICE thing, when I look at all the things that were created in the wake of 9/11,
including ICE,
including ICE, those expansions are really, really dangerous. And it is unclear to me where you're going to get 10,000 more washouts from the police department. It's going to come from,
it could be like pardon January 6ers.
Oath keepers.
Yeah.
January 6ers. It's still not 10,000 people. And there's no apparatus to hire those. There's going to be all sorts of graft. There's going to be, they're going to be throwing money at building detention centers. And it's basically just like a brown shirt expansion program. That I think is going to be really, really disturbing. And of course, stuff like the enormous brain drain that we're going to have in this country, the capital flight. There's going to be a problem. The capital flight's not going to be because of taxes. It's going to be in terms of investing within this country.
I mean,
it's just sort of like it's so backward ass right now.
This destruction too of these subsidies from the Inflation Reduction Act. Why would anybody invest in this country if they were using like this for these subsidies and the promise of this for new construction?
And to be clear, let's also remember the IRA was giving subsidies to forward-looking technologies.
Yes.
So if the subsidies get pulled back, they realize this country is, you could get, you could get AOC as president for 4 years, and you'd be an idiot not to think like, how do we know we don't get Trump Jr. the next year? Like, anybody who's building these technologies that are forward-looking, that involve a 5, 10, 15-year, 20-year horizon
right.
for profitability, for wide, adoption, they're going to look at this country and go, it's just too high of a risk.
Same thing with the tariff policy.
Yep.
Like, we're also going to see, because of immigration and like cities like Las Vegas, I don't know what the projections are going to be for their tourism this year, or how much revenue that they take in, because there's like, I'm hearing anecdotes already of tourism being down in New York City. Why would you come to this country if you think that, like, because you tweeted out Free Palestine one time, you could get detained at the border and sent to a concentration camp?
I got a text from a friend. Thought you might be interested in this story. Her son has a friend of a friend that was denied an entry visa to the U.S. from Norway after she allowed her social media to be searched. She had reposted anti-Trump and pro-Palestine TikToks. That's
not shocking. Not shocking at all. This is the Free Speech Administration, right?
Oh, the good news is the tax on silencers was abolished.
That's amazing.
So also huge tax break for those of you who buy a lot of gun silencers.
As a hobby, why else would you do that?
Yep.
Assassin lobby.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Hey, folks, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and check out our daily show. We do it every day at 12 p.m. Eastern for about 2.5 hours. We even take phone calls. You should check that out.